Hello, listeners. If you've enjoyed these narrations, please click on that like and subscribe button.
I saw one of them again last night.
1 week away from land on a small cargo ship, and Adam's stories still haven't gotten any better.
7, maybe 8 feet tall, standing on the waves, watching us, watching the boat.
The dude was a virus that nobody on deck wanted to catch. He was a deckhand by trade, but the captain banished him to cleanup duty. His fellow crew cracked jokes at his expense. Nobody wanted to work with him. Nobody wanted to talk to him. Ultimately, his station fell so low that he ended up in the mess hall with me, the cook. Funny how shit rolls even on a ship.
People think I'm crazy,
he continued that morning with a wistful eye out the window.
You can say it too. Jack already did. He's off his meds. He's detoxing. It's whatever. Fuck it. Doesn't matter. I've heard it all before. From you guys. From my parents. Name it. Well, we'll find out soon enough who's crazy.
The sureness in his voice baited me to ask a little further. All right. What do you think you saw? He took to the question like a life raft. I think he was glad somebody would listen to him.
I don't even know what to call it. A jumper, maybe hydro jumper or something?
A water walker, I suggested. I heard some of the guys joking.
The cameras can't capture enough light out there. The radar's fucked up. Only thing that works is binoculars. And even those only last for a few seconds. Too many jumps.
I went to get us some coffee from the counter.
I finally got one good look at him though last night. Out there in the waves, just looming there like a titan. Humanoid, but not human. Long arms, long legs, maybe a tail or something at the back to keep balance. Big, like I said, bigger than you, bigger than me, and I don't know how fast. I've tried to track them on one of the radars before. I wanted something visual to show everybody, you know? Hard data instead of just talking shit. But it didn't like it.
What didn't like it?
He stared back at me, waiting for me to fidget awkwardly with my coffee. And then he answered. The radar. It didn't like the radar. The scanner jumped up and down, you know? Back and forth, back and forth. I could watch this thing in one spot, only to have it pop up 1 mile west a second later. Then it would just hop back again. I've never seen anything like it. I don't know if the tracks worked or something scrambled, or if it was just, that fast. I shrugged. What's that quote? He wondered out loud. If you stare long enough into the void, it stares back at you. He shrugged and snatched the hot coffee out of my hand.
I think we're getting a little dramatic here. You said...
He grabbed me. No, you don't get it. Nobody gets it. Last night, on the deck, I could feel the void, Matt. I could feel it looking right into my chest cavity and wrapping around all the muscles and blood vessels in there. I could feel this cold, freezing cold, you know? And all I can remember thinking is that I didn't want to ever be that cold again. Have you ever felt that way? An impenetrable cold? I can feel it right now. It's 60 degrees in here. He cradled the cup.
So what happened? Did you track it?
No. I tried. I couldn't even track it. It wouldn't let me. Then it started to move closer. He looked at the floor. It looked at me. It saw me. With bright green eyes. Like a lizard, you know? Right through the scope. I went back inside and locked the door. I haven't seen anything since. I let him sip for a few seconds before piecing together my reply carefully. I wanted to let him down easy. Nobody on board seemed to have the conscience necessary to do it. This is gonna sound really arrogant, but I've been out on the waters for a long time, man.
You're not the first guy to say he's seen something. I'm sure you won't be the last. It's dark at night, darker than anything you've ever experienced before. The darkness has a way of pulling people in, and there isn't a speck of land in any direction. So no, I don't think you're crazy. People see things. Adam nodded violently. He felt vindicated. That made the next part that much harder. But you gotta understand how this stuff makes people uncomfortable. When you talk about all this time, when you're insisting on the truth in it, we live in a day and age where society has figured out all of the mysteries. There's nothing left out there to discover. There's no monster. There's no voids. That shit is all pieced together in your brain to deal with the harsh reality of the unknown. The wind picked up. There's nothing out there but sea and fishes. Maybe some rocks. A ton of garbage. But that's it. Mostly just sea and fish. The radio crackled with orders to do something for someone. I felt relieved of the conversation and disappeared into a corner to occupy myself with breakfast. Adam let me go without another word. The rest of the day moved like any other. Lunch came and went, with dinner no longer after. The normal folks on the deck had 5 modes: work, eat, sleep, drink, or fish. The second kept me busy, and the last kept us all fed. Everybody contributed. Well, everyone except Adam. Hence the hatred from everyone else on board. That night, on the captain's orders, I circled the ship to find my desolated buddy on a chair on the deck under the stars. He had a pair of binoculars at the ready in the same outfit he wore all day. I wondered when he last showered. "You know, they got Anna up in the tower tonight," I offered loudly to announce my presence. "Are you backing her up?" Adam answered without looking away. "She misses stuff." I just laughed. "And you don't?" He considered that. "Back up," he answered. "Like you said." I nodded and pulled up a second chair behind him. "Buddy, it's past midnight." "Shut up a second." "Excuse me?" He grabbed me by my arm. "I'm sorry, just look." He handed me the lens and pointed to a speck at the horizon. I zoomed in and did my best to pinpoint the spot, but the only thing that stood out to me were waves. Countless waves, and a blanket of black behind it. "I don't see anything, dude." He snatched the binoculars back out of my hand. "It was right there. It was just right there." "Man." Adam stood and pointed a finger aggressively, as if he hoped to poke the damn thing in the night. Then he shouted, "Right there! Right there! It's there, look!" To the point that his voice carried and the observation deck threw up a light. I grabbed him around the shoulders and led him back down to the bunks. He fought me for a little bit, and then sheer exhaustion took hold. Inside, I shucked off his shoes like a drunk in college. I tossed him into bed. I found his bed sheets, neatly kept and folded behind a small stash of books and a map organized by size. I turned off the light on my way out the door, and just before the frame clicked, a voice whispered, "Wait, will you lock the door for me?" Adam muttered. The captain and mates had keys. I thought about saying as much, but I suppose he wasn't worried much about them as much as whatever he thought might be coming. I nodded in the dark and clicked the cheap lock. Just before I left, he called out again, "Lock yours too." My room was right next door, but something about the glow of the moonlight through the windows in the hallway drew me back up top. I sat on the deck for a while, in Adam's chair, and investigated the shapes on the horizon just as he did. I just kept expecting to see something. Maybe a boat, a whale that would explain away his worries. Maybe something would jump out to me. But it never did. So I just sat there for a bit,
The waves looked peaceful when they crashed up against the ship. 1 turned into 2 a.m. Sleep finally started to seem more likely. I slipped back downstairs to bed and past Adam's cabin on the way. I listened carefully for reassurance of sounds of him sleeping off the paranoia. Then I found my own room and dimmed the lights. 2 turned into 3. I read on my phone. I tried to sleep, but the silence of the ship made me uncomfortable. I took off my clothes and decided on a late shower. Halfway in between finding a towel and a razor blade, my eyes fell on the lock. I hesitated for a second. I thought about it, and then I clicked it forward. The hot water of the shower washed away Adam and all of his problems. My mind switched to the following day and its many different headaches. I was washing my body when oddly I heard something. I still can't quite identify the noise that first caught my attention. The whistling of the shower obscured most sounds, but that crash or bang got me out from under the water in a hurry. I wrapped a towel around my waist and walked my way around the corner. The door handle caught my attention. The lock jingled in a pattern. 2 to the left, 2 to the right. I stood still as a ghost in a white towel, scared of breathing for the fear of alerting whatever might be on the other side. 2 to the left, 2 to the right, over and over again for about a minute. Heavy footsteps started retreating from the doorway. I felt safe enough to whisper walk towards my golf clubs, and the footsteps stopped again. A faint jingle of the lock echoed in the hall. I listened and cursed my breath for being so goddamn loud. 2 to the left, 2 to the right. Stop. 2 to the left, 2 to the right. Stop. Again for about a minute. Then the heavy footsteps moved on, and a high-pitched ringing followed behind. I gathered what remained of my courage and gently unclicked the lock. The door opened. I peeked outside just in time to see a shadow enter a room down the hall. The door closed. I hopped over, feet still dripping, to the closest wall. Adam's bunk was in between us and the third room, and he was no longer snoring. I wonder if he was listening too. There was a loud thud, and a shuffle of feet. More ringing sound. A door opened soon after, and I rushed to slip open mine. I only saw a silhouette, a shape that disappeared in seconds. It was huge, about 8 foot, long legs, long arms, and no tail. It dragged someone behind him, a crew member we later learned to be Jack, and then turned the corner and went up the stairs to the deck. I didn't dare to follow. The slow and heavy footsteps turned into a gallop against the floorboards. A couple other guys reported hearing a high-pitched shriek. The running ended in a splash, and then it was silent. The man overboard alarm sounded a full 5 minutes after we aroused the ship. The Coast Guard launched a broad search that scanned for the surrounding ocean for a full week. Nobody found Jack. Rescue services theorized he was suicidal. The captain insisted he fell. The crew heard something, but most people couldn't agree as to what. The thought about telling our story. I assumed Adam would do the dirty work, but when I caught him in the mess that morning, he just smiled at me, fresh as a bird, and poured a fresh pot of coffee. "Did you hear who it took?" I nodded carefully. "Who's crazy now?"